Hi, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, August 2nd, 2013. The U.S. is temporarily closing down embassies in and around the Middle East. The reason why, reportedly, is because of some sort of al-Qaeda-based terror attack could be in the works. Now, the State Department says that these are just precautionary steps. Some of the countries where we're shutting down embassies include Israel, Egypt, Qatar, and many other Middle Eastern countries. I don't think these are just precautionary steps. I think they have some pretty good intel that some sort of al-Qaeda attack or some sort of terror attack is close at hand and a real possibility. Now, how long are they going to be shut down for? Well, we don't know whether it's a few days, a few weeks, or a few months. But they are being shut down, and that is further evidence of how tenuous and how hair-triggered the Middle East is. If we're shutting down multiple embassies around the Middle East because they could be attacked. And I don't understand this. How is it that we shut down many embassies around the Middle East because we're afraid of an al-Qaeda attack? And on the other hand, we're arming al-Qaeda in Syria. And we continue to do so. I don't understand the foreign policy. The Russians have granted NSA leaker Edward Snowden temporary asylum. He'd been in the airport for almost a month. He finally left, and they're giving him asylum. And boy, there are people here in the U.S., including the president, who are hopping mad. Now, there is a big discussion and a big difference of opinion over Edward Snowden. Is he a traitor? Is he a leaker? Or is he a whistleblower and a hero? No matter what you think about Edward Snowden, look at this. Every day we have headlines in the newspaper. This is just this week. Senators look at limits on surveillance. Do you think they'd be doing this if Edward Snowden hadn't brought this up? And many people say he just brought up this massive spy program that other leakers brought up years ago. Of course, he put a finer point on it. He brought up, that we have a massive data collection of emails, of phone calls and recording phone calls, of tracking where you go online, basically spying on our allies at meetings overseas, basically spying on the entire globe, and Edward Snowden brought this up. We also had just a vote in the House of Representatives, and I don't think that we would even had a vote, or it would have been as close as it was to rein in the spy tactics and the spying program of the NSA. Only 12 votes separated both houses of Congress, and actually it was Democrats and Republicans on one side against Democrats and Republicans on the other side. It was very, very strange. I mean, liberals and conservatives on one side, tried to rein in the NSA spying. They weren't successful, but only separated by 12 votes. On the other side, you had John Boehner, a Republican, and Nancy Pelosi, a liberal Democrat, taking the side of, let's continue this massive spy program. We don't want to interrupt it. Now, listen, I know we have enemies. We need, I guess, some sort of spy program. Do we need it at this level? I think not. But, we're also getting spin job from the mainstream media. I mean, basically, they're not really talking much about how Snowden is a hero. USA Today, for example, this past week published this op-ed piece, Snowden's Benedict Arnold Path. They're calling him a traitor, Benedict Arnold Path. And they call him a leaker, not a whistleblower. Not a whistleblower who he didn't make any money. He didn't sell this information to the Russians or the Chinese. He just released it. How else are we going to get better as a country if we don't know what the government is doing? And here's another opinion piece about Bradley Manning. You remember Bradley Manning? He was, leaked all this information to WikiLeaks, including some pretty gruesome video of our service people gunning down on unarmed civilians. I think one of them had a TV camera, but it was pretty gruesome video about gunning down civilians in the light of day. They didn't get in trouble for that, but Bradley Manning sure did. And he was acquitted of the most serious charge, which was treason, which could have got him the death penalty. And he had other espionage charges where he can get 100 years in prison. And I just want to show you this. This is the USA Today, their view, our view. Manning case sets framework for assessing leakers, not whistleblowers, leakers. This is their view. He could get, more than 100 years in prison, and they think that is, their words, appropriate. Also, according to this opinion piece in USA Today this week, let me read you one of their most outrageous lines for a news organization. Leaving his actions unpunished would invite wholesale abuse by others. Let me say that again. Leaving his actions unpunished would invite wholesale abuse by others. So let me extrapolate this out for you. So is the USA Today saying that we should only get our government news from a government press release or a government source? We shouldn't have any whistleblowers anymore. I mean, that's what they're saying. And again, let me just hold this up to you because I think this is outrageous. This is their spin doctrine, their view. This is their view. So we shouldn't have whistleblowers anymore? I mean, we should only get our news of corrupt government activities from the government? Oh, they're going to blow a whistle on themselves? Anybody that does so is some sort of a criminal, some sort of traitor, somebody that we should prosecute and put in jail for more than 100 years under the Espionage Act? Listen, USA Today, you guys should stop masquerading as a news organization. You should just call yourself government shills or a propaganda for the government, or which is now legal. You should stop doing that because, calling yourself a news organization is an embarrassment, and you should be embarrassed by this. And I want to just tell everybody out there, I used to work for Gannett, not USA Today. I worked for a couple of their TV stations. They didn't do that when I worked for them. I was proud to work for Gannett. I wouldn't be proud to work for them today. And I wouldn't work for them today. This op-ed piece that talks about their view and that not cracking down on somebody who's a whistleblower would invite others to do this abuse is shameful. Next door, the IRS scandal is growing, and this is a big deal. Remember, we were told this only involved the IRS and Lois Lerner, who was one of the supervisors there, that pled the Fifth Amendment so she wouldn't incriminate herself. Remember all that? Well, her name ended up on some emails going to the Federal Election Commission. And I have long said that the Obama administration has used the IRS as a club to thwart its political enemies, namely conservative groups trying to organize against him and his policies. Now, that's what America is all about. That's First Amendment activity. And now we find out that the scandal's not just the IRS, now it's the Federal Election Commission trying to thwart political enemies. Obama makes Richard Nixon look like a choir boy. Not only is this unconstitutional, it's against the First Amendment and First Amendment activities, it's criminal, and it is not a phony scandal. And finally, the latest on the economy-killing Obamacare, and it involves the IRS. These are the people that are supposed to enforce this tax of Obamacare, and they basically wrote a letter to the government and said, we want to be exempted from Obamacare. We like our insurance just the way it is. If that's not another sign about what kind of a disaster Obamacare will be when it starts to kick in October and fully kicks in January. Well, the employer mandate where you have to have insurance for companies with 50 or more employees, although everybody's got 49 employees who's close. This totally kicks in January of 2014. And as I have said, and other guests have said, this is an economy killer. And if this isn't another red flag about how disruptive and terrible this is, the people enforcing it, the IRS, don't want it. It's okay for us, the citizens, but not for the IRS. That's simply outrageous. Well, that's the way I see it. Thank you for supporting USA Watchdog. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for using the donations button. That helps us out. I'm Greg Hunter. That's the way I see it. Have a nice weekend.